That's Nintendo Boy energy right there.
That is some Nintendo Boy energy. You are not a Sega kid.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Die or Pass Level Podcast. We are here at the beautiful Doppel headquarters. So many games all around us, as you can see. And I'm excited to have a special guest on today. We'll get to that soon. But first, of course, let's introduce our buddy Brandon. How you doing, Brand?
Soaring like an R-wing, baby.
Let's get started with what are you up to these days? What are you playing? No more Balatro, Brandon. What else are we playing?
Been a little bit busy with some writing projects, so I haven't quite been able to hop on as much. But have we talked about Tamagotchi Life? Ooh, actually, this is a pretty good episode. If we have not talked about it, talk about emotions. My daughters are loving Tamagotchi Life, so I booted up the old DS, started replaying that. Pretty fun.
Tamagotchi Life is a pretty deep cut, so I'll explain it quickly to our listeners. And Brandon, you know way more about this game than I do, so chime in if I spin it inaccurately. But it's like a life sim game with a Nintendo spin on it. Very whimsical, very silly, and ridiculous. You create the likeness of your characters and friends' characters, and they interact with each other. And it's almost like you're watching a Nintendo sitcom.
Pretty good way to describe it. Yeah, it's very funny, a lot of whimsy, but it also gets emotional. You get pretty emotional in that game for the end when you beat it.
I'm not playing a whole lot at the moment either. I've spent the last week or so really truly stressing about if I was going to get this Switch 2 pre-order locked down. So I'd like to thank, first of all, my Target unit, Brandon, for holding down that side of the pre-order section, alongside the Walmart unit, our friend Tito, who you might know from episode 1. I was in charge of Best Buy with some help from my friends. I managed to lock in the Switch 2 bundle last night. I even got an extra one who I've already allocated to a friend who wasn't as lucky. So, Switch 2, I'm ready to rock, baby. I'm so excited. My stomach was turning. I forgot how these things make me.
Couldn't be me. I don't like the competition. Couldn't be me. Were you crying? Did you cry? You get a little emotional?
I just felt like a huge sense of relief. All this weight off my shoulders. I was just already, imagining the worst. I'm going to be at GameStop at 4 a.m. tomorrow. That's the last line of defense. And who knows? And something I didn't tell you guys, I just didn't want to put the bad energy out there, is that I'm summoned for jury duty all this week. So I have to call in and see if I have to go. And I was like, dude, knowing my luck, I'm going to get called in finally to go on the day of the Switch 2 pre-orders and on the day of the podcast. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. We're all good. I didn't have to break any bad news to the crew. That's basically what my week has led up to. I couldn't be more excited. My kids are pumped. They knew what was going down, and they were like, all right, Dad, we're going to go to sleep early. Coco was like, I hope you get it, Dad. And she turned her head and went to sleep. It's the cutest thing.
These girls have been conditioned since birth, so this is not all surprising at all. This is bigger for them than Christmas,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Coco's already talking about, in Mario Kart, you can free roam and you can go wherever you want. And what else? Oh, yeah, you can ride the rails. Our 5-year-old Coco is the youngest. So far, she's showing the biggest signs of being the gamer. She woke up early with me to watch the Switch 2 Direct. So why don't we go ahead and move on to today's topic? Brandon, you wanna give it to him?
This is episode 5. Make me feel something. Why video games can be so emotionally powerful.
That's
Why
right.
Are they, Ray? Why are they?
Actually, okay, so having a few conversations with some friends about the subject, I think I tend to go in the direction of games that don't involve a lot of feeling. I definitely have some moments, and some of them kind of transcend outside of the game. Like, for example, when my Nintendo 64 wasn't working when I brought it home from Toys R Us. That was an emotional gaming moment for me.
Yeah.
I was hysterical, but that wasn't as a result of the story or the plot. There are moments, and I'll shed some light on those soon, but they're few and far between for me because in Street Fighter, you're just trying to win, baby. And there's also a lot of emotion with getting that first dub, stuff like that. So I like to bring in that kind of emotion into the fold too, because it's not always, the tragedy or the super sad parts in video games.
I mean, yeah, shocker, complete opposite. I, love games with tons of story, tons of character. I mean, I have a ton of examples. I was really excited for this podcast. I was I got this example. I could talk about this. I could talk about this game. I could talk about what happened with me in this game. So, I mean, video games are art. And so it definitely evokes emotion. I mean, you get those games with that big orchestra and those unexpected twists and things like that. Yeah, you're going to get emotional.
I kind of kept my notes light for this episode just because I know that you're that gamer. And I also know that our guest is also leaning on that side of the gaming spectrum. I'm just going to sit back listen, I'm gonna laugh, I'm gonna cry, and we're gonna have a good old time. So, on that note, I'd love to introduce everybody to today's guest. This is Trevor, or Trevor Dylan Kelly. I call him TDK. That's what I called him way back in the day when we used to. Take it away, Trevor.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. This is an honor. It's exciting. We used to pretend to work, and we'd actually play games in a warehouse. So I had this lab. I'm an optician by trade, and I had this lab in this warehouse. And Ray and I worked at this company. And sorry, Ben, who was our boss, but for a lot of the time, we were just playing Mario Kart on his Switch. I think there's a photo. I don't know if you can find it. There's a photo of like us and the lab guys, and we're all huddled around this tiny little Switch screen, and each of us, it's like four of us, right? And I feel like there were brackets, maybe. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was a four-player split screen, four dudes huddled around a
Yeah.
tiny Nintendo Switch monitor playing Mario Kart.
Yeah. It was fun. It was real like warehouse energy. I was telling Brandon this earlier. I think I remember, I don't know, because Ray, this is a long time ago, right? We're talking like 10, 15, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, you were around when Noah was born.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So I remember Ray coming in one day and being like, "Oh, I met this dad, and he was talking about Nintendo." And I remember like there was this meet cute, and now it's blossomed into this beautiful podcast. So that's
Yeah.
you guys go way back.
We do. We
I
do.
like to think the magic of games. It's the magic of games that really just brings people together, and I can get emotional about that too.
Also, I will say we're all parents, right? I have a 5-year-old little boy. You can tell when you meet another cool dad. Like there's so many park dads who are like, "Let me tell you about this Bitcoin you should invest in," and you're like, "Oh my god, this again?" And then when I see another cool dad across the park, I'm like, "That's the guy. I'm gonna go talk to him all day."
Which actually brings me to my recollection of meeting TDK for the first time. I got hired to work at this company in accounting of all departments. The person who hired me was my friend's mom. She was like, "I don't want to hire like a real accountant. I just want someone that can like hang out, basically." And, and so I was like, "Count me in, baby. I'm your
Hey,
guy."
is this job available now? Can I
I
hook it up?
Oh man, no, I'd still be there if it were probably. It was just like a very easygoing kind of gig. I was in the accounting department, and Trevor was in the warehouse down the way, like right next door. And every once in a while, Trevor would come in for like coffee, or maybe his lunch was in the fridge or something like that. And one day, Trevor was in the kitchen, maybe making his way up to accounting. I don't remember,
I know what you're gonna say.
but he was wearing a shirt with the Captain Planet logo on it.
Yeah.
I was just like, "Oh, Captain Planet." And he was like, "Dude, I've wore this shirt so many times in this office, no one's ever noticed."
I think in
And
life, I don't think anyone knew ever outside of my household. I mean, on the one hand, we had our own meet cute because it's like an if you know thing. But on the other hand, I was wearing a Captain Planet t-shirt. Not the coolest move, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's very cool.
Yeah. It was a Wheeler
It's
t-shirt, obviously. Fire.
I didn't
and
want to make
then
that assumption. I didn't want to make that assumption, so I'm glad you cleared that up. I was like,
Yeah, you got to ask which Planeteer you were wearing, obviously.
the character for Wheeler was being casted right now. TDK would get the role.
That's a huge compliment. I'm going to take that as a huge compliment.
After that, it kind of just like turned into this thing where like, slowly but surely we found out that we played video games. The Switch came out somewhere conveniently around that time, right? It got to the point where I left the Switch at the warehouse.
Yeah.
That's just where I played Switch.
Yeah.
I would clock in to play Rocket League.
Yeah, we had a good time. It was a great chapter in life where both of us, you had kids a little before I did, Ray, but it was like kind of that time when you're married, you have like 2 income, no kids, or just about to have kids. And you're like, this job's cool for now, but I'm going to play these video games in the warehouse. Before you had a job where you were really passionate about it. And, obviously you don't want to just play video games in the warehouse. It was great.
Hey, speak for yourself, man.
Yeah.
man, we could do a whole podcast about video games in the workplace. When I was at Nickelodeon, that was how I used to bond with the productions. Each production, it's sectioned off by each show, right? There's a show called Harvey Beaks that was at Nickelodeon. They would do Smash, and they would do Smash during lunch breaks, and that would bring people together. That's how I got to know a lot of board artists, a lot of board directors, and designers, and things like that, color stylists, by going down during my lunch break, and I'd be the executive. They'd be like, "Brandon's here, what?" That's how I'd get to know them, was playing Smash on work breaks.
It was definitely not the culture at our job, but we created it a little bit.
A microcosm of that
Yeah.
existed in our little nook. I remember when Brandon kind of roped me into this animation industry just because my world kind of revolves a little bit around Smash Brothers. Even knowing deep down, like, I know there's a community here. I can't wait to exchange friend codes, fight these people. The one thing I will say about the animation industry, and maybe it's just my luck, but everyone picks the weirdo character. Like it's all DDD and Mr. Game and Watch.
Duck,
Dude,
Duck
I
Hunt.
know how to fight you. Yeah. Pick
There,
someone
oh man,
normal.
I can talk about animation and in the workplace and how I met people through games. I even talked about the legendary Cling Street parties, but I'll say that one for another podcast. But
All
yeah,
right.
it's such a good way to meet people at work. Through games.
All right. So I know the subject of the podcast, and we're gonna get to it very soon, I swear. But TDK has a bone to pick. I know you wanna address this, so I'm gonna give you the floor.
Listen, guys, I'm a big fan of the podcast. I've listened to the first few episodes. I'm a big fan of, obviously, you both personally, and that's great. I'm really proud of you both. That said, you started a video game nostalgia podcast, and on the very first episode, you alienated all the Sega people. This is egregious. We have to address this. I've come on this podcast to avenge Sega. I almost tried to buy a Sega t-shirt, but I couldn't get one in time. There was some big leaps with Sega. Like, I'm personally a huge Dreamcast guy. We got to talk about that. But I was an only child, and I grew up very remote. I grew up in Washington State. So on the one hand, you have summers and lakes and rivers. You too? Washington State?
That's what I'm
Oh.
podcasting from. I'm podcasting from Camas, Washington right now, baby.
Dude, we'll have a drink offline, and we'll definitely talk about Washington. But for me, in my experience, like, my parents in the wintertime when it's like dark at 4:30 were like, what's this kid gonna do? And they were like, let's just give him video games, which fantastic time to be alive in the 90s with parents that didn't know what to do with you in the evenings. So, I did have, NES, regular NES. But when most kids jumped to SNES, I had Genesis, and then I had Saturn, which is kind of crazy. Saturn was a mistake. I'll give you guys Saturn. Even though I do think, Ray, I think a lot of arcade games were ported to Saturn way more than, SNES.
I had a friend. He was playing like the true to arcade versions of like X-Men versus Street Fighter, and my
Totally.
PlayStation version could not hold a candle to it.
So then Saturn to Dreamcast. And so same deal. When a lot of people had PS1, I jumped to Dreamcast. And at the time, if you're comparing PS1 to Dreamcast, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 on PS1, and you're basically like skateboarding through gray fog, or Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 on Dreamcast, and you're just living 4K, baby. It was incredible, remember? So I loved all those. And of course, I played Mario, and I loved Mario Kart, and we can talk about that later. But for my money, Dreamcast, it was the first time I think I started really getting emotional about games. Even though, like, I'm an only child and I've been putting my own stories into these things and whatever, but it's the first time games, is it Shenmue, right? Like,
Shenmue. I was just gonna ask you about that. I was like, the first game that comes to me when I think emotional Dreamcast game,
come on.
gotta be Shenmue.
Like, incredible. Nothing had really existed like that before, right? And then I think if you look back and you look at what Dreamcast is, and there's a ton of discourse on this online, like, we don't have to rehash, but you can draw a very clear line between Dreamcast and Xbox. Any controller now is pretty much what the Dreamcast controller did. Like, they're bigger, they're more ergonomic, and Xboxes took the place of what Dreamcast did, right? Just kind of like PlayStation took that Nintendo ball and ran with it. And you have these kind of parallel journeys to go on.
Look, I think there is something I think interesting about like how people branched off, right? Like I got arguments, like we're gonna have a couple brothers later on as guests that would love to talk about this as well, but like they also branched, like they were like Nintendo. Sega came out, they branched off, right? Because you had to pick. You couldn't just be the rich kid that got everything. You had to pick your console and kind of dig in. So then people branched off and did Sega, and they branched off again and did like PlayStation, and like I only did Nintendo. I was also a big like PC, so like talk about a lot of PC games here too. But like
also, let's be real, like
Yeah.
You're not a 7-year-old who gets to choose if you get a Sega or you get a Super Nintendo. Your parents probably just went to Toys R Us and were panicked, and they were like, I don't know, you know what I mean? And you kind of just were put on a trajectory that wasn't really your choice at the time, right? And you're just stoked to be there.
If I may interject.
Yes.
During the holiday season, we were in the midst of that console war where Sega was really working hard to bash on Super Nintendo and like make sure that they were in advertising looked at as the dominant console. And I had the choice. Me and my brother told my parents that we wanted a Super Nintendo. Don't get us the Sega Genesis. Like, we see Sonic, we see the blast processing, we know that he's cool, but we were unbothered.
That doesn't
We
surprise me, Ray.
Had the smear campaign.
Yeah, we had friends that were like, Nintendo sucks, Sonic's cool. Dude, Sonic was the embodiment of cool. It was
cool.
so easy to get a hold of any kid, but I don't know, man. I just think Nintendo has that Disney-esque kind of approach, that more of a magical touch
Totally.
that
Yeah.
like I leaned more towards as a kid.
Speaking of Disney, you know, one of the fun things about having a Sega and having friends with Super Nintendo was like when you would go to their house and they would have the same game. Like if they had Aladdin and you had Aladdin, but on the Sega Aladdin, you had like different rooms you could go in, like a little bit different aspects. Like I don't know why they changed what they changed, but it'd be so fun. It was like the early Easter eggs, right? It'd be like the early version of a director's cut where you're kind of figuring out like, oh, was that 10 seconds longer? Like, oh, that scene was a little bit different. Was that a different take? It just felt so behind the scenes. Like there's different versions of these things, right?
Yeah, no, it's crazy that was a whole thing. Like there are so many games that had like parallel dimension kind of versions of itself. Aladdin was like this very smoothly animated, almost looks like the motion picture game on Sega Genesis.
I love that game.
To this day, there are arguments about which is superior. I think the gameplay's better on Super Nintendo, personally.
No, but
obviously the graphics and everything else is better on Sega Genesis.
I would argue just for Aladdin, just for Genesis, I would argue it holds up better because it looks like more like a cartoon. You're playing an actual cartoon. Like nothing really aged. It looked the way it was supposed to look. It was really smooth, and it's a platformer. It's like a 2D.
It's a heated debate. I would argue that Super Nintendo's is better because it plays more like a video game.
True. And when I play
I mean?
games, I like to pretend I'm in a movie.
That's
right?
true.
And when you play games, you like to be the guy with the glove, the superior technical artist. You like the craft of crushing another human on Street Fighter. And we're just very different gamers.
Yeah. And which is why it's a hotly contested subject, and which is why, it can never be put to rest. It's just up to the individual.
Okay, well, it was put to rest. I got a story for you guys. And then
This is the story, Brandon. You got to hear it.
I couldn't help but spill the beans to Ray, but we'll move on to our topic after this. So I'm listening to your first episode, right? I'm kind of getting the feel of the whole thing. And to your credit, you did make a podcast in a first episode where already within the first 30 minutes, I'm screaming into my headphones like, no, Sega's incredible. And behind the scenes, I'm like, all caps texting Ray, like, you called Sega whack, bro. What's the matter with you? Sega, Nintendo, like, I can't believe you alien. You know what I mean? I'm sending him. And at the same time, I'm an adult now and we're all, probably pushing 40 or around there. And I'm getting like some furniture delivered to my house. And I had been texting the owner of the furniture company, like, hey, when you guys showing up? And I had that feeling like, wait, did I text the right guy? And I look back and like that whole rant was texted the owner of the furniture company. And then I was like, oh no. And I look and I'm about to text him like, hey man, sorry. And I just see the 3 dots, right? And I'm like, uh-oh. And all he says is name a better duo. And I'm like, what does that mean? And then he sends a GIF. And it's just Mario and Luigi fist bumping. And I was like, no.
He just writes back, Sega is whack.
Yes.
He like in real time confirmed that Nintendo wins. And I was like, well, that's that. I can't argue with the fate of the, owner of the furniture company.
That first episode, yeah, we're kind of like, let's just get the controversy out, let's pull people in, getting real mad.
Just to clarify, and then we can move on. For me personally, during the 16-bit era, I drew a line in the sand, yes. But that was the intent. That was like part of the marketing, right? And I was a Nintendo kid for sure. And that continued onto Nintendo 64, which like not their best probably console. I hold it very dearly, but Sony probably won that generation. And then the Dreamcast came out, and I just put all the beef aside, right? I needed.
Did you have a Dreamcast?
Oh, I had a Dreamcast before I sold it like a dummy.
Oh, I didn't know that about you, Ray.
I was all in on Dreamcast.
All right.
And
all
yeah,
right.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2, you could play the arcade true port of it on there, and that's all I needed. I had Sonic Adventure 1. That was the first game I got. Fighting games, Crazy Taxi. A very great console for arcade ports. It was just like having an arcade at home.
Yeah. I mean, I was also, I'm very similar in that I was also like, again, not to rehash the old Sega Nintendo wars, but like same thing. I was also like only knew about Nintendo, Vietnamese parent that just calls every console Nintendo,
Yeah.
so there's no risk of like,
That kind
everything's
of
Nintendo.
wins the debate right there. If you are
It
the
kind of wins it,
Kleenex
but
of video games, you kind of win.
exactly. But I didn't actually have a PlayStation until I got a PlayStation 3. I didn't play any PlayStation games until I got a PlayStation 3.
Same, bro.
And then I was so broke when I bought the PlayStation 3 that I could only afford the PlayStation 2 games from the online store, right? So that was my only time playing it. So anyway, that's another
Wait, were
thing
you an
to get into. But
Xbox guy before PlayStation? You just skipped
no.
that whole.
If something turns me off right away, I'm not going to go to it. So like Sonic for me was a game that I played it. I remember playing it at my dentist's office, and I was playing it. I was like, this is too fast. I can't enjoy the level at all. I'm at the end already. I just picked up my sticks. Can I slow this down a little bit and enjoy the level design and things like that? It was too damn fast. I was like, I'm out. So that was for me, my wave out for Sega. I was like, I'm done. I don't like Sonic.
Brandon's like, Sonic's too fast. I want to go back to Mist. Can we slow this down and walk through like some fog?
Now you're cooking with gas. Now you're cooking with gas. But like with
Oh, that's
Xbox,
funny.
I saw that controller. I was like, no, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing it. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, the Dreamcast control was basically the beta for the Xbox controller. All right, I would like to clarify, Sega is great, Nintendo is great, video games are great, we love Sony, we love Microsoft. Thank you to the game software developers.
Now our sponsor, Microsoft.
Yeah. So the topic of the podcast is make me feel something, and again, I think this is more your guys' happy place. So I say you guys take the floor. I'm happy with whoever wants to jump in first, and of course I will chime in whenever needed.
Brandon, it's your podcast, man.
The very first game that made me emotional was Shocker, another PC point and click adventure game. Ray, I don't know if at one point you can play music, but I linked it to you in our notes. Sierra, the undisputed king of adventure games in that time, there was a game called Conquest of the Longbow, which was like a Robin Hood story, and I loved it. It's still to this day a perfect game for me. It's one of my definitely top 3. It has an incredible intro. The soundtrack gets you so pumped for a medieval fantasy adventure. I still get goosebumps if when I hear that song. You got to play it at some point in this podcast. Do it. And there are, just with the music too and the story writing, Christy Marks, she was the editor of this game, did such an incredible job. I remember like looking through as a kid, you could open up the box and look at the manual, and the artwork in the manual is beautiful. And she just did such an incredible job of like, she would list all her research, like a bibliography of all the research she did in the game. And I remember as a kid just reading it, being like, how did she come up with all this research for Robin Hood? I was just like completely mesmerized. But in the game itself, I remember being stressed out. There are moments in the game that you can choose to do a mission, like do subterfuge, like sneak in, and you had a time limit, right? Sierra was like ruthless for like, they will kill you if you make the wrong decision. So you had to like really go in and make sure you're doing the right thing. My heart was pumping. I was sweating. They got real moments of like tenderness between like the homies, the Robin Hood and his merry men with Maid Marian. Anyway, that was like a game where I was like, ooh, I'm feeling stuff in this game. I'm a little kid playing Sierra games, and I'm really, really feeling something. So if I were to pick my first game that really made me feel something, was Sierra's Conquest of the Longbow.
Oh,
played
how
that
old
on
were you
PC.
playing that game?
I had to be around 8, 9, maybe. I gotta check the math on that. Maybe I was maybe 10 or 11. Again, like around that age. Like,
I was listening to that and just thinking to myself, man, the demographic Brandon's pulling in here. Some people ears are perking up, like, oh my god, I feel so seen.
I'm getting like 2% of that gaming community.
TDK, you got one to throw at us?
Yeah, I guess my version of that kind of like early emotional response to a game would be Comic Zone on Genesis. Do you know this one, Brandon?
I know.
I don't. I gotta look this up now.
Comic Zone with an X. Because I was
Okay.
basically I was a really big comic book kid, and the level of kind of emotional storytelling that you could do on a Genesis or an NES or an SNES, it's not huge, right? Like there's some maybe beat 'em ups where they have like early versions of cutscenes, like You Stole My Sister. Like I remember that one where the two brothers had to go after the guy. But Comic Zone was pretty close to like an interactive comic book, right? And because they structured it like you were actually walking through the panels, you could punch your way through a panel. You were a comic book artist that got sucked into your own comic book, and you had to go through the story, and you had to fight your own one villain. But because they structured it like a comic book, there's a ton of descriptions of what's happening a la a comic book, right? So I was already very used to putting my emotions in the comic book and kind of filling in the gaps between the panels, which is why I think comic books are incredible. Like you do all the kind of storytelling in your brain mixed with these kind of key images, and you basically create a movie in your head. So this game allowed me to do that. And then similar to what you said, Brandon, because you know how Genesis had those big, almost like clamshell boxes, almost like the VHS back in the day. You'd open that up, and then there
Yeah.
was a real comic book that kind of correlated. It was like early on, tie-in comic type of idea, right? So I was all in. And it was hard. It wasn't an easy game, right? You're nodding, right? It's notoriously this was a pretty hard game, right?
Very hard game.
I
Very cool
still
game.
I still have so much pride that I beat it. Like I actually beat that game as a kid. And I don't think I actually finished a lot of games as a kid, but that was one where I was like, I'm gonna do this. You had like a little pet rat. It's very 90s. You had like a mullet.
It looks so good.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the images I pulled up on real quick, and it just looks so cool. What a cool concept. It looks great.
It just really evoked emotion. Like it evoked like passion, you know what I mean? And it was good.
It looks great. It looks fantastic. I was like, this looks like something I definitely would have been pumped about playing.
I love a game with good art direction. It's just one of my favorite things, right? I don't know, especially when you look back at old Xbox games where the sky is brown and they're shooting for like super hyper realism in an era that just wasn't there yet. It's just nice to have games that simplify it, and those wind up being the ones that, stand the test of time.
Totally.
Speaking of story driven games, I know TDK, you're a huge fan of this series, and me and you talked about it
I
all the
talked
time.
at you about it all the time. You
Oh
couldn't
yeah,
stop me from talking to you about it. And you were kind of like,
well,
can we just play Street Fighter again?
no. Fortunately for you, I was all in on this game
Yeah,
too, man.
everyone
I mean,
was.
I played 1 through 4. Big fan. I remember my brother working at GameStop and bringing the original home before it was a thing, before all the great reviews and such, and being like, "What is this thing?" Uncharted, just dude in the jungle. I mean, there were set pieces, but like Uncharted 2 definitely took it to the next level.
Yeah.
I can talk forever about just the narrative and that game and Naughty Dog and what they do at TDK. So can you. I'll let you take the floor.
All right. Well, so for me, it almost starts like the emotion of what Uncharted gives to you. It almost starts with Tomb Raider, right? Remember when Tomb Raider was it PS1 or PS2 maybe came
I think
out?
PS1.
I think yeah, PS1 maybe. It came out and we were all like, you can explore this trench in a jungle and maybe there's a T-Rex down there. And it was kind of like, again, not sad, but the emotion of like, I'm capable and I'm going to like go wherever I want. I'm going to discover something like that emotion of discovery, right? So it starts back then. Like we can talk about that type of emotion in games, but you take that and you just add really, so talk about, Brandon, you were saying the writer, like Amy Hennig, like really, really good writing, really, really good kind of historical fiction. Like the genius of those games is that I'd play the game and I'd love it and I'd get the feelings. And, obviously Nate Drake is so cool and the banter between him and Sully is fantastic. But I'd find myself going down Wikipedia rabbit holes about Sir Nathan Drake or about Shambhala, right? And like Shangri-La and like, where did this thing start? Is this real? And like, they just kind of got you enough. And then for me, there's that moment in every one of those games. I don't know if it peaks in 2. The moment exists in all of them, but there's that moment where you eventually obviously shot way too many people. You've gone through like all the puzzles and you've kind of climbed and you've got the one clue that led you to the next one and you're in some space and all of a sudden it just opens up and you're just like, I just discovered a lost civilization. I just did this myself and nobody knows.
That third act of Uncharted is just always like, you're like in awe of what you've discovered.
The awe, that's exactly it. It's awe.
You also got to give props to Greg Edmondson, the composer. Like those tracks, like talking about the big orchestral tracks of those games. Greg Edmondson is a master. So good about getting that emotion. I mean, like just the music itself to this day, put that up, you're just like covered in goosebumps.
Turn on the console and before you even press new game, you know what's about to go down. Like it's go time, baby.
It's the Indiana Jones game that never existed, right? It's incredible that they were able to do it 4 times, 5 times if you include was it Lost?
The Lost Legacy?
Lost Legacy, which I really like. I think the Chloe Fraser character was fantastic. The way they incorporated like an open world photography aspect of that one that was pretty cool. I would play a version of that, and it's not even like I was very emotionally connected to Nathan Drake, during those games, but I'm just emotionally addicted to the feeling of discovery and awe and also growing up in the woods. There's also a version of this we could talk about where these things inspire you to go out there. So I'd play this game and I'd go home and I would just try to climb cliffs and I'd be like, I'd find myself wanting to like grab and be like, oh crap, right? Or something, right?
Or quick time events, IRL.
Yeah, real life quick time events. Not dissimilar from like, you would play Excite Bike or you'd play like Paperboy 2, and then you'd watch like Rad and you'd go break your arm on your BMX bike, right? It would inspire you
Yeah.
to get out in real life and do some real stuff.
TDK slipping down his dirt clog, going, no, 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 no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah.
You know what's
Yep.
funny? I was actually thinking about this before we started the podcast, is that because you've talked to me about that feeling that video games like kind of made you want to go out and do something in real life, and that's so awesome for you. I was like,
That's not
why?
the case for you?
I was just like, why don't video games do that for me? And I just find that movies are the medium that did that for me as a kid. After thinking about it a little, like I was like, maybe it's just that I prefer video games than going out. I think maybe doing something outside would more inspire me. Like, dang, I want to go home and play Tony Hawk and try that.
No, I'm under the actual delusion that I could actually do these things. Another
I mean, good
one
for you
for
though.
me, this is like when I was in college, I would play Splinter Cell. I love Splinter Cell. I think Xbox original, maybe Xbox, Xbox 2, but or 360. Can you cut out that I said Xbox 2? Don't let anybody know I said that.
Late, ladies and gentlemen, the Sega
Oh
man
my God.
himself called it Xbox 2.
Oh my God. I can't believe it happened. It's my first podcast. Okay, so I'd be on Xbox 2 and I'd be playing, Splinter Cell, and you're Sam Fisher and you're really meticulously going through and you're sneaking and then, in college for me, I don't know about you guys, this is probably like 2005, 6, like paintball was huge. And in Washington, Fort Lewis, Brandon, right? It's like the biggest fort in the States. So there's a ton of paintball on Fort Lewis. And sometimes you go and you play Splinter Cell and you're in there and you got everything and you're ready to go and you get up against a 13-year-old birthday party and you're just like headshotting 13-year-olds. It's incredible. And sometimes you go and Navy SEALs are doing that to you because they're on the base and you just get unlucky and they're, headshotting you left and right. So I would usually get my ass kicked by Navy SEALs and get headshot, but it was very, very fun.
That's hilarious. Just to throw in a few of the moments that pumped me up, and I know it's a video game podcast, but I'm just gonna throw out real quick the Power Rangers movie and how that movie just made me want to like go out and learn karate and like become the Green Ranger. The movie starts off with it's like a back-to-back sequence. It starts off with them doing all these cool tricks rollerblading, and it just like immediately goes to them skydiving. Or maybe it's the other way around.
Tommy was skydiving with like a surfboard or something, right?
Yeah.
Remember that? He was skydiving like with a snowboard.
Movies were the medium that gave me that kind of feeling like, oh my God, I just want to get out there and experience life.
Bro, on Genesis, Power Rangers, the movie, video game tie-in, not the worst game.
What was it? A beat 'em up?
I think it was a beat 'em up with like a little story cutscenes. Yeah.
Okay, I think I missed that one. My cousin had the Sega Genesis Power Rangers fighting game. It wasn't great. It was a cousin game, as they have you seen that video, TDK?
No.
I'll send you a video
man,
about cousin
no.
games, dude. It's so good. It rings very true to me. I wonder how you'll feel about it. And
I think-
also, there's no shame in being the cousin.
I have a feeling in my experience with Sega and everything we've talked about, I'm probably going to be the cousin.
I feel like Sega dominated the cousin game genre.
I had cousins who had Sega, and I definitely appreciated having somewhere to go and experience the Sega Genesis and all that good stuff. Jumping back to Uncharted, one moment that, oh my gosh, man, it gave me a feeling that I don't know I will ever experience in a video game ever again. My favorite video game in that series is Uncharted 2. Shambhala is the best third act, in my opinion.
Totally.
However, the greatest moment in Uncharted for me is Uncharted 3. I was sitting by myself in the bedroom playing Uncharted 3 during the airplane scene and you're like wrestling this dude, and it all builds up. It's a big scene. There's all this stuff coming your way. You're fighting, you're dodging, you're gonna make it. Then this dude, I think, grabs you, I want to say, and he throws you without a parachute. And there's all this music playing in the background. It's an intense moment, beautifully scored. You get thrown out of the airplane, the music cuts, and all you hear is the wind blowing in your face. Like, it just felt like it was me. I just like remember holding my control and being like, oh, and then like, what am I gonna do, right? And then off in the distance, like, you see a backpack, a parachute. You're kind of prompted to kind of move in the direction. I don't even know if you control it. I was just like, let me move him towards it. I'm not sure if that did anything or if it does it anyways. But you get to that parachute, like puts it on midair, pulls the rope, and you're safe. Man, I was in awe in that moment. Like, holy crap, I can't believe they pulled that off.
How
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
the moment after that moment where you wake up in the desert and they just make you walk? Remember, you're just walking, you're trudging, and it's like it almost feels like hard, and you just keep walking. You like just have to reflect on the fact that you almost died. You fell out of an airplane without a parachute, and you just got to put one foot in front of the other. It almost does make you sit with like, man, maybe sit with how many people you've gunned down or something like that, right? Like, I love that moment
Yeah.
too.
I'm not sure. Is there a day night cycle even? You are in control of that for a while.
Yeah.
Like, again, almost like this moment to reflect.
So in that instance, I'm gonna stop walking for a while and just let it sit and like keep my headphones on, maybe grab a cup of coffee, but see if there isn't some kind of like fun Easter egg where he's like, shit, I gotta get moving. Like they always put in some kind of like he keeps saying things, and I want to hear like all the different things that he said, especially Nolan North. Like everything that guy says is funny or quippy or
Yeah, I think it's in Uncharted 2 where you're on like a cruise on a boat,
I think that's
maybe? Or,
3.
okay.
There's a whole
But
the whole
like,
cruise ship sequence where it's like it's rolling and that's a great sequence.
there's like a swimming pool on the boat. Is that right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so like, yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna jump in the water because Nate Drake is gonna say something witty,
Yeah.
like when I put him in the water, and sure enough, he does, and you even get an achievement for him. I'm like, oh, great, nice.
Is that the kitty
Is that
got wet moment?
Marco Polo?
Yeah, Marco Polo. I think that's
Marco
what it's
Polo.
called. I was talking to my brother about those kind of weird game logic moments that like have just been instilled in us as kids. You play a game of Mario, you go from left to right, that's a given, right? No questions. But in a game of Donkey Kong Country, at least for me, I always check to the left. Like every level you have to check to the left because Rare, as game developers, like putting secrets at the very beginning of stages. All these like little things you just know as a gamer like to check and do.
I'm curious, did you guys have any games that actually like got you like kind of like a little choked up, a little like glistening eye stuff
Yes.
happening? Like you have moments like that? I'd like to hear that.
Hit us, TDK.
All right. Well, I mean, this one's very on the nose. I have a few. I think, especially as a parent, if you play The Last of Us, number one, even just say you only play the first hour, there's no way you're not crying if you have a
My
child.
goodness, how did I forget about that opening sequence? It wrecked me before I was a dad.
Yeah.
Forget about it afterwards, dude.
Yeah. I made the terrible mistake of replaying it after I was a dad, and I won't ever make that mistake. I loved it. Loved it. Did you guys play Firewatch? Speaking of art direction. And then that's kind of right up your alley, Brandon. Like that's very point
Yeah,
and
that's a
click.
really good. I actually hate that I didn't think of that for this. Yes, what a great example of another game that makes you feel something. Yeah,
And like
good one.
it bummed me out. I played it in one day. It was like I think it was like an 8-hour game. So I sat down and like on a Saturday, I just played it straight through as if I was reading a novel or something. And by the end of it, I was like, I need to go for a walk. Like I'm sad. I thought, because it starts out and you don't know that it's not like a Sasquatch game or something. I thought there was maybe some kind of like, spoilers, I guess, for Firewatch. Maybe I'll light spoilers. But I thought there was going to be some kind of like Area 51 Sasquatch conspiracy. And then it takes a dark murderous turn and you're just like, this sucks. It's beautiful though.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Another game that kind of reminds me of that too is did you ever play Gone Home?
No, I wanted to. Yeah, that's similar.
Similar thing. You're kind of like, what am I doing here? That's another one. You're like, oh, where's this story going? And you're kind of using visual clues to kind of piece the story together.
I got to jump into those kinds of games a little bit more, guys. There's too many critical acclaimed games in that genre. Narrative driven, blurs the line between is it even a game? It's almost like a playable book. There's like that Edith Finch one that everyone always talks about.
Did you guys play Journey?
That's one that I didn't get to play that I hear is a very cool, emotional kinship kind of experience, especially when it first released.
That was like the big rage back when it came out. I did not play it though.
It made you feel spiritual. Like whether you are spiritual or not, you're just you just wake up in a desert and you're just moving towards this mountain and you just feel a pull, and there is like this kind of ominous power the mountain has because it's just looming over you the entire game, right? When it first came out, I think the big kind of development with that game was that you could interact with other people who are on their own single journey, and you can't speak to each other, but you could just pair up if you want, and you could really form a bond with somebody, or you could just go through it alone and just have this kind of solitary experience. But it was very spiritual, emotional.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of personal accounts and from like reviews and on websites, this silent bond you create with a random other human being playing in another part of the world.
Yeah.
You'll never see them, you never hear their voice, but you're on this journey together. It's up to you, right? What you do, but most times from other accounts is that like, no, I stuck it through with them. That was my person. They helped me, I helped them. I'm like, dude, that's so cool.
It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Now that only exists if you're like sniping a 12-year-old over in the other side of the world in Fortnite.
I want to share a sad moment that we didn't expect. That kind of snipes us out of nowhere. Conker's Bad Fur Day. Have you guys played that game?
I played it and I beat it, but I'm struggling to like recollect what
Yeah,
you could be
well,
talking about.
let me remind you. TDK, I'll give you a quick recap. It's basically the game came out. There was a lot of controversy because you had to show your ID to get to rent that game. It was like rated M for mature, a Mario type platformer by Rare. So very cartoony, but like super crude.
What gen are we on? Hit me with like where are we at in the.
Oh, sorry, this is an N64 game.
Okay.
And when Microsoft acquired Rare, they remade it for the Xbox, but it was an N64 game. It was rated M, and everyone's like, Nintendo's doing a rated M game, what? But it looked like very cartoony, like anthropomorphic animals and things. It was like you're in Toontown almost, right? So that's why I'm saying that the ending really came out of nowhere, because it's all kind of like jokey kind of game. And what happens at the very end, and I'm going to just spoil this for people, but like, your girlfriend gets killed by the bad guy. The bad guy just guns down your girlfriend. Conker kind of breaks the fourth wall and is like, hey, I can manipulate the programmer of the game to do what I want. So he asks the programmer to like give him all these weapons so he can take down the bad guy, and then you beat the bad guy. And then he realizes that he beats the bad guy. He forgot to ask the programmer to bring back his girlfriend. Right. So she's dead. He keeps calling out to the programmer being like, hey, like, are you there? And there's no response. I'm going to read off the last line of the game. So he's on this throne and he has this inner monologue. And the last line of the game is, I just want to go home with Barry. Barry's the name of his girlfriend. And I don't know, have a bottle of beer. It's not going to happen. It's true what they say. The grass is always greener, and you don't know what you have until it's gone. Gone. And the game fades out to credits.
Yeah.
I have
I
chills.
was like,
Chills.
you just didn't see it coming. You're just like getting choked up because he forgot to ask to bring his girlfriend back. So anyway, that was a game that like really sniped me out of nowhere for like emotions. Conker's Bad Fur Day.
I want to play that.
Yeah,
I want to like find that and play it.
It's on Xbox. If it's not on the original, you can definitely play it on Xbox too. But no one got that.
Why?
Sometimes the things that we don't edit out, you can't because it's just too
Oh
damn
my
good.
God.
Seriously though, I think you can download it on an Xbox console. It's really good, and it got great reviews for its time, and even the multiplayer holds up. Solid video game. I will throw in quickly that I did an episode with my brother last week, and we started talking about Kingdom Hearts. In me editing the B-roll for that episode, finding little scenes of stuff he was talking about, I totally forgot how much of a bond I had with these characters. If you guys have ever seen Frozen 2, Brandon's wife has talked to me about this here and there, but Frozen 2 makes 0 sense, but I cry every time during the musical sequence at the end anyways. That's Kingdom Hearts. It's just like so convoluted. It's Final Fantasy meets Disney. So like it's Mickey Mouse and the Little Mermaid, and you're going between like the Lion King's world, but you're on a journey to find your friends who are characters developed by Square Enix. It's like this journey about friendship, and you've lost them and you're on this mission to find them. Also, I was telling Brandon earlier, I sent him the link and he was just like, I don't get it. I sent him the link to the opening sequence of Kingdom Hearts 2. For me, at least currently, that opening sequence, in regards to CGI and in that era, it's unbeatable. It's the best CGI kind of video game opening that I can think of. It's like a music video, an emotional song paired up with like depicted moments that you've played through in Kingdom Hearts 1. I remember fighting that guy. I remember finding Kyrie on, and like rescuing her. Comment section for that YouTube video is just nothing but this opening sequence changed my life. I remember it like it was yesterday. Me and my brother used to play it. This isn't a song, it's an emotion. People love that opening sequence, so I'm glad it wasn't just me, but man, I can watch it right now and well up like all over again. It just gets me every single time.
I think that's when you were like, you don't need context. I was like, I think you need a little context because I'm just watching. I'm like, what the is happening here? There's Donald and Goofy. I'm supposed to get emotional about this. What the hell's happening here?
But they
It's
pushed that
like,
game hard. Remember, like it was a big deal. It felt different, and I think Ray, we talked about this earlier, but wasn't I still feel like it was Elijah Craig was like connected to that game or voicing.
Haley Joel Osment.
Right,
But
that's
yes,
right. You told me that. Hey,
yeah.
a couple honorable
uh,
mentions: Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver.
I played it on Dreamcast,
I
on a
played it on
demo disc,
Dreamcast.
but I liked it. I just couldn't get it.
It was the first time I ever experienced morality in games, meaning like the way I treated the NPCs would dictate the way they treated me or the way, like the way I played the game. So you basically, Brandon, very quickly, it's like a demon sent to hell and he's going to get his revenge. You can be, altruistic, and all the NPCs, these kind of like tribes, I guess, right, Ray, for lack of a better
Yeah.
word, would kind of like worship you as a god. Or you could kill them and you could eat their souls because it's a soul reaver and you could get more power and then they would fear you, right? It was interesting to have to make that choice. But Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver was like kind of the first time I felt like, wow. I almost felt guilt, right? Because if I didn't play it the right way, it made me feel guilty, right?
I want to jump in on a quick like morality moment too, because that reminded me of like something that I struggled like with where what episode of what podcast would I put this one in, but you brought it up and I think here's a good enough time as ever is GTA Vice City. My buddy brought it over and he was just like you can do whatever you want in this game. You can drive off of the building and like you can go in the water. Cool, man. That sounds great. Bring it over. You can get this gun. You can just hold in blah blah. Yeah, see that guy over there? I'm like, yeah. He's like, shoot him. And I'm like, why? He's not doing anything. And he's just like, yeah, man, but it's cool. And then the cops come after him. I was like, no.
yeah.
I didn't shoot him, dude. When I got GTA 4, I like followed like the traffic laws. I was like
Oh my
stopping at
God.
red lights. I was
Listen,
like
man,
stopping
that's
at red
worse than
lights.
Xbox too. You follow traffic laws in GTA? Come on, Ray.
Hey man, that's a Nintendo. That's Nintendo boy energy right there.
That is some Nintendo boy energy. You are not a Sega kid. You know what? Sega kids
We
weren't the weird kids. They
made
were
those
the
games, man.
rebels.
Yeah,
Wow.
you're right.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's pretty
Hey,
hilarious.
Vice City, by far the best GTA, right? I think the best art
Yeah, I think so.
direction. How much did the music licensing in that game cost? It was incredible music.
That music is so good. Yeah.
Such attention to detail with the radio stations, radio jockeys.
Ray Liotta played the main dude. That's top tier A+ movie star stuff. Goodfellas.
Probably the only one I sat with for a extended period of time. I always do, and I always will, and I will again buy the GTAs because of the pop culture moment that they create. And I'm like, well, this is the one. Look, everyone's talking about this is the one that gets me, and it never like fully does. I think I'd have better luck with Red Dead.
My favorite.
Brandon.
Uh-oh.
Oh, damn, dude. This is coming.
This is hilarious. To me, this was hilarious. Brandon was so pumped about Red Dead. He was like, dude, just come over and watch me play. I go over, use up my pass to like go out for the evening to go watch Brandon play Red Dead. And I sit down and I watch him play cards in a bar for like an hour.
Brandon, I love
like,
that card game, bro. I love doing it.
Look, in my defense, I know now that I know what kind of gamer you are. That at the time I was still not quite sure. Now I know that I would never show you a game like Red Dead Redemption because you got.
Or like show me the gunfight, show me like a cutscene.
Hey man,
I kind of watch you play poker.
The mission at that point was to play poker. I had to beat that poker. I had to get that achievement. So that's bad timing. That's bad time. But I would have loved it if you brought me over and I was watching Red Dead. I'm like, ooh, I want to see you play some Red Dead or Five Finger Fillet or whatever.
I'm with Brandon. Like there's something special about like you've gone on the journey. You pick the specific duster you're wearing. You customize the hat, and you got to sit down and you got to be the guy that plays. Hold'em. That's the wish fulfillment of it.
I think Rockstar too, just talking about game, emotions and stuff like, I can't think of a company that cuts trailers that pump you up for those games. Like the music they license for those trailers. She's got the look. That song that Roxanne's. I can't remember which DLC it is, but they cut a trailer to that. It's like one of the best video game trailers ever. It just pumps you up. The footage they choose, the music they choose, they're like the kings of like video game trailers. Like really pump you up for a mission. I love Rockstar trailers.
Did you guys see the new Intergalactic from Naughty Dog? That got me. They got that 80s kid thing going on. Oh, Brandon, you got to look.
Oh, Brandon, you haven't seen it? Naughty Dog's new IP? Their next game isn't
Couple
an
months.
Uncharted or a Last of Us. It's like this new sci-fi,
It's kind of like
almost Guardians of the
yes.
Galaxy-ish.
When did this drop?
We were texting about it. It had to be
Ah,
like
that's
the last
true.
PlayStation event. You just gotta look it up. It's gonna be fun. You're gonna get the dopamine hit.
I'm gonna as soon as we end this podcast, I'm gonna go boot it up.
All right. Any
Uh,
final thoughts, guys? We're entering an hour 15. Any
yeah,
final last stories or thoughts before we go into our guess that game?
Speaking of games that pump up, that still hold up, I actually have been replaying a game. Star Fox 64. Perfect first level. The music of Corneria. I want to get into an R-Wing and blast off and just defend the galaxy. Still hits. So good. It's a perfect first level of the game. So
Yeah.
good.
And speaking on that quick like little dopamine hit, I get a little bit of that when Bill comes and helps
Oh,
Star Fox in that one level where you're like outnumbered.
on the other end of the spectrum, like, what's that level where the bomb's gonna go off and Starwolf comes in and his whole team?
Yeah.
Whew.
And you can fail that one and like they blow it up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the game and it's weird because most games, if you fail, you have to do it again. But the game progresses. You just like fly off, and that level's done, and you failed the mission.
I can't let you do that, Star Fox.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts, TDK.
All right. Well, listen. In the spirit of emotions in video games, I'm going to tell a story, and then I'll leave you guys. I'll let you do the name that tune. So, in listening to your first couple episodes of Doppel and thinking about it as like you guys talked about co-op, right? Like kind of what Doppel is like very much like you have to play with a brother or cousin, and you're like die or pass level, and you're just trying to fight for your turn, right? And it made me think like, man, I don't really have a lot of that. Like as an only child, I was just kind of like on my own going through my solo game story. But then
Mm-hmm.
I met a girl in college, right? The youngest of three, opposite of me, right? Probably a Nintendo kid like you guys, way cooler than me. Youngest of three, meaning like she had a 7-year older brother who's, killing Mario Kart and she's just trying to keep up, which means by the time we get together, she's an assassin, right? Like she's really, really, really good. So we date, we fall in love, we get married like 10 years later. And through this time, one thing that we do to really relax is like I'll make us a cocktail. We'll sit down with her original SNES and we will play Mario Kart together. And I could get her on battle mode. I could shoot the red shells or the green shells, and I could get her, and she'd be upset about it. But she was a great sport. But I don't think I once ever beat her ever in a race. Like she just knew the angles, she knew the right lines to take. She was an assassin at Mario Kart, and it's so cool when like this girl that you're in love with, that's cute and hot, is just unbeatable at Mario Kart. It's the dream, right? And so for the emotional part, like that's incredible. And I'm so grateful we had that time. And then we had a little boy, and we always talked about he get him on video games, and then she got sick, and when our little boy was 3, she passed away. And now he's 5. And obviously we miss her, but he's turning into her. Like I see her in him. And because of this podcast, I went into the garage and I pulled out the big box of all the consoles because I never got rid of a console. We still have her console. And so now I'm going to teach him how to play Mario Kart on his mom's SNES. And yeah, it's kind of a co-op love story. It was a real beautiful time in my life.
Obviously, TDK, I love you, man. The reason we even found each other was through video games. The reason we reconnected through this kind of chapter in your life was also because I just randomly hit you up to play Rocket League, and you gave me the sad news, and I'm so glad to have you back in our lives, my life, and I just look forward to being there for you, whatever way you need me.
Let's keep playing games.
Yeah, man.
That's what we're going to
Always.
do. Brandon, thanks, man. This was really fun.
It was great meeting you, man. Thanks for sharing that.
Bye, guys.
All right, guys. Thanks again to TDK. We are going to move on to a quick little guess that game tune. Brandon, I'm going to do the tune. We're going to do a brief pause, and then you're going to be able to guess it afterwards. I know TDK probably would have got it. That's a hint. All right.
Yeah.
Again, my voice is shot. This is going to be my worst version of this to date. All right. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. Bum bum bum. And then it's a high note that I always like screw myself with. Hey everybody, it's Ray here. Just wanted to thank you for tuning into the Dire Pass Level podcast. If you want to hang out and join us for the next episode, make sure to like and subscribe. That way you're notified when our next episode releases. If you really, really, really liked it, you'd do us a solid if you left us a review. Reviews are a great way to spread the word about our podcast, and the more gamers to share these stories with, the better. All right, we'll see you next week. Have a good one. There we go.